I know you're gonna dig this.
Let's go!
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe. It's Business School Without the BS. Featuring optometrist turned entrepreneur, Dr. Robert Zellner, with USSBA Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark. Welcome to the Thrive Time Show on Talk Radio 1170.
Oh, dunk time!
Yes, it's Z and Clay, broadcasting from the box in the 918.
918.
Business school in the topic today. Check the syllabus, it's getting you paid. Making a business boom is what we do. You can do it, let us show you. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. It's the Thrive Time Show, and away we go. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. And 3, 2, 1, here we go. All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the conversation. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio, and we are so fired up. We're so excited to help you start and or grow that successful company. Woo! But you can't grow a business if you can't find the time to do it. And I don't care if you're an attorney, you're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're somebody with some kind of business. At the end of the day, the number one limiting factor that I hear from business owners is they say, I just don't have enough time to get something done. That's the number one thing. Now, the second thing I hear a lot is, I'm struggling with selling more stuff. I need to sell more stuff. And the third is I'm struggling to find good people. I'm struggling to find the good people to work in my company. But at the end of the day, if you can't get things done, you just struggle to get things done, you struggle to manage your time, then it's going to be hard to get things done. So inside the box that rocks, I have Mr. Eric Chupp, a business coach here on the program. Eric, how are you doing, my friend?
I couldn't be any better. I'm
and
doing
I have
great.
Robert Redmond, business coach on the show today. Robert, how are you?
I am doing so great. How are you doing, Clay?
Well, I'm actually very excited because we have you two fine gentlemen, and we have Wes Carter, Tulsa's #1 attorney, in my opinion. He's on the show today. He's sort of a big deal. Wes, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
He has a really nice tie on today.
Now, let me kind of tee it up real quick here. Wes, as an attorney,
Yes.
You have a job that requires attention to detail.
A lot of detail, yes.
So you basically live in what I would call meta time or thoughtful time, or the word meta means above. Basically, you have to be thinking, you have to be planning, you have to be very strategic. You're reading legal documents. How do you structure your day to get the legal aspects of your business done while still being responsive to your clients? Because your reputation as a very responsive attorney. And by the way, if you go to wintersking.com, you can schedule your free consultation with Wes Carter. And if you don't have a great attorney, you need one before you have a legal problem. But Wes, how do you balance being responsive with also being 100% mentally focused and prepared for your clients?
A lot of what I do is structuring my time throughout the day because I've noticed over the years certain things distract me. So, for instance, just a few weeks ago, I had to turn off the audible notifications on my phone because I'd be sitting at my desk and my phone would go off and I knew I got a work email, which would make me want to go check that work email and see what it is. Yeah. So it's things like that where you structure time. This hour, I'm going to read my emails, get caught up. This hour, I have an appointment. This hour, I have these tasks I'm going to accomplish. And at the end of the day, for an hour or however long, I'm going to revisit my email. So structuring chunks of my day becomes important.
Well, I sat down with Dr. Z and I asked the man, I said, hey, listen, let's make a list. Let's make a list of the 66 super moves that you actually use, that you actually do on a daily basis to free up copious amounts of your time. Because the guy's one of the most fastidious time managers I've ever seen. And when you're around him, he's always relaxed. He's always going on to trips. And you're always like, man, this guy is like, how's he doing it? Well, he's doing it because he's a very great manager of time. Now, move 57, we're teaching you all 66 moves. Move 57 is you don't overcommit to things. Now, Steve Jobs, the guy who co-founded Apple, the CEO of Pixar, who saved the company from the path to certain failure when he took over the company at the request of his dear friend George Lucas. He said, people think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. I'm actually as proud of the things that we haven't done as the things that I have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. So, Wes, I go back to you. What are some things, I want to get Eric Chupp, your perspective as a business coach, and I want to get Robert's take on this too. Wes, what are things that you say no to or maybe some things where you wish you would have said no to. If you could talk to your younger self as a younger attorney when you were first getting going, where you go, man, I wish I wouldn't have committed to that. Talk to me about the things that you currently don't say yes to, the things you're saying no to, and maybe some of the things if you could coach your younger self, like, man, I wish I wouldn't have committed to that.
You mean like a radio show? No, no, I'm kidding.
Too close to home.
Yeah, Wes, come on.
I work a lot in the charitable sector, and people always expect charities. The nature is they're asking for something, for time, for money, and I get asked a lot to sit on boards that I have to turn down that are really great causes, great organizations, but you can't sit on them all and help everyone and do a good job. So,
Wes, we are trying to raise money to feed the children and to give them toys and to give. We're trying to raise money to Up With Trees is a huge thing for us, and we're
With
also
our wooden signs.
wooden signs. We have a fun run we're doing. We're going to shut down all of Riverside. We're going to run around. It's called the Turkey Trot. It's where we trot after we have the turkey, And then we're going to have a Christmas run we're doing. And if you'll notice, there's a walk for bridges and a march of the dimes, and there's a bunch of I want you the American Cancer Society, the Better Business Bureau. We've got the koalas. It's a koala. Did I say koala? We've got the
March for Koalas. That's the thing.
Rotary. We've got the Chambers. There's a lot of chambers. The Chambers is huge right now. The Chambers are big. Wes, could you please just 37 things I want you to be involved in. Please respond which ones you can be on, please.
yeah, that time, it just sucks your time. And when you dip your toe into something like that, you get deeper and deeper and deeper in commitment. So it's easier just not to say yes in the first place. With clients, I've found over the years that if I stay in my lane, I do a better job both for the client and with time management. So if someone comes and asks me to review a maritime agreement because their ship has a problem, I say, no, that's not what I do, instead of yes, and then go spend hours learning.
Maritime rhymes with March of Dimes, which reminds me, are you going to serve on the board? I mean, now that we know that Wes hates America and doesn't like the community, Derek Chubb, let's go back to you.
It's coming up on winter time.
What are
There's a
things
soup
that,
kitchen
what are hateful, selfish things that you do there, Eric Chubb, to help you free up time? What are the hateful things that you do? What are the charities that you turn down?
I neglect my family. That's what I do to free time.
I knew it.
Yeah, no,
I knew it.
If on a serious note, if I could coach my old self a little bit back when I was running the concrete company, doing those jobs that I shouldn't have been doing, that I should have paid somebody to do, like being an IT guy and setting up the whole office when I could have paid somebody to do that in like a day, and it took.
Could
me
you
multiple...
fix my printer?
Right. I need a server. Okay, I'll figure out how to set up a server. Or being a mechanic, I'm not a mechanic. So doing that work that I should have hired out, I could have saved a lot of time. I could have spent that time getting more jobs and making more money, instead of just.
I have one of my favorite requests that people like you who hate other people would never say yes to. Well, could you help me move?
Oh, yes.
I want to move.
Hey, you have a truck and a trailer? That did happen a lot, actually.
Now
You do have a bigger truck, though.
That's right.
Can you help me
Here's
with-
the move I do now when people ask me to help move. I always say,
Are you going back to the rash, Clay? Are you
No, I will say, how much is the mover? And they'll say, what? I said, what does the mover cost? And they go, I don't know. I said, call them and I'll just pay for it because that's me.
That's a move.
It's me helping.
That's a move.
Well, do you want to have pizza? No.
I'll be at my house.
Never.
Pizza?
No, I seriously. I used to be the guy. I used to be the guy with the multi-million-dollar business that would help you move. Just stupid. On like a Saturday and Sunday, my entire weekend just shot. My back hurts.
Really?
Yeah, I do all the time. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a freaking idiot. Like, I'm just. I mean, my wife could tell you. I mean,
I
Junior
won't help you
Achievement
move.
called and said, "Hey, is there anywhere you could speak to the children
Forever.
for 1 hour?"
to the
I'm not
children.
kidding. It was 1 hour a week, and then they said, "We got a great response. We want to see if you could speak for the entire day on a Thursday." And I'm like, what? Yeah, yeah.
From 9 to
no, I'm not
5.
kidding. I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
My wife goes, hey, why don't you schedule time to see our kids after you work with those kids? Because my wife doesn't like the community, right? So that's the thing. Now, I want to ask you this, Robert, because you obviously are an emotionless, selfish, self-absorbed
Yes.
guy who doesn't care about other people and giving back to the community.
Not
All
at
you
all.
want to do, you are the kind of man who wouldn't overcommit. But no, seriously though, what are some things that you used to overcommit to? Or maybe do you see clients that are overcommitting to and you're like, man, if we could just stop doing boom, 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 we could free up more time. Because this is a huge, somebody listening to the show today, you're going to hear one of these and go, they're talking about me. And you're going to feel freed knowing that you can free up that time.
Yeah, something that I personally used to really commit to that took a lot of my time that I no longer commit to is fighting.
Fighting?
Fighting.
Seems mean.
Seems very Republican.
So yeah, fighting in general. You know,
Jail time,
No, here's
lots
where I'm
of
going with
jail
this. So
time
so
and-
I used to train in Muay Thai, which is kickboxing. So it's like boxing, but you can do knees
I used to
and
date
elbows.
a girl named Muay Thai.
You know Muay Thai?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
used to train in Muay Thai.
Okay, back to you.
And so anyway, this would take a large. I one time, actually competed in a fight in a ring, and that used to take a lot of my time. And I love doing that. However, training for a fight requires you to train for a minimum of 3 hours per day.
Sonic boom! I do kick.
And so that's one thing that I kind of had to give up was fighting.
Kick. Sonic boom! You guys remember Street Fighter?
Yeah,
Come on,
Ryu.
If you're listening to the show right now and you will email info@thrive15.com, I'll give you a free copy of my Thrive book if you will send me a YouTube link to your favorite Street Fighter 2 sound effect. Sonic boom! Kick! Bronco!
Finish him.
That was
That's Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
Fatality.
Oh, wow. Okay, so don't overcommit to things. Now, you don't have to do something just because someone asks you to. Thus, you don't need to feel the need to accept every dinner invitation, every calendar invite, and every request for a quick meeting. If you feel like your current calendar is overwhelmed with obligations, then it is time to pull some overcommitment weeds out of the calendar because they're choking out your life. So I'm asking you today, what is something that you've committed to that you need to not re-up for? What is a soul-sucking time commitment that you can get out of? I mean, what's something you can get out of today? What's an association? What's an association or networking club that you need to get out of? It's so important you do this.
Clay, can I bring something up very relevant to this topic?
Sure. My rash? Wow. Is it now the time?
Your rash. That's been taking a lot of your time and your focus. No.
Let me show it to you.
So I remember you're really into fitness right now. Like, don't you wake up every day, 4 a.m.?
4 a.m., yeah.
Work out?
Yeah.
But at a time...
Well, it's 4 days a week, but it's going to be 7 soon.
Bumped.
And at a time, I remember when your first, I was shadowing you a lot, your first training me to become a business coach, you weren't working out.
Right.
And
Well, this has to do with my dad getting sick and me being able to kind of find time with my father. So it was a deal of like, I'd already signed up to run a business, and you can't miss payroll. You can't not do things. You can't. So, when your dad says, hey, I have stage 4 cancer, and then your dad so rudely says, I've got ALS, you have an option of either A, I'm going to be this weak sauce boss who all of a sudden neglects what I've committed to because I'm going through a personal issue. Or I'm somebody who's going to fight through it. And so I had to decide what's going to come out of my calendar. Is it my time with my kids, my time with my dad, my time with my...
Trade-offs.
Right.
That's
and
what I'm getting at.
I took that off my schedule. And I don't regret it. It's just, it's reality. And people who can't handle trade-offs don't do well in business. You just got to make trade-offs. You want to make more money than most people, then you got to watch less TV than most people.
And so how did you decide what you're going to trade off?
I sat down and just made a list in my meta time of all the things that I am doing every day. And I realized that, this is just funny to you guys, but it's real. I'm like, should I wrote down, spend time with my wife. Should I not do that? Absolutely not, right? But okay, should I just neglect clients? No. Should I? And I'm just making a list. I realized, okay, things that have to change is 1, I'm going to work via appointment only. 2, I'm never going to leave the office. 3, I'm going to wear the same thing every day. 4, I'm not going to drive anywhere. 5, so I had to cancel clients that required me to drive.
Right.
To make time to do that.
Overcommitment.
Right. So when we come back, we're going to talk about move number 58, which is create a checklist for everything. And I want to get Wes's mind on this because he's an attorney and you just can't make mistakes as an attorney. It requires you to be so detailed. Stay tuned. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. We're talking about the art of getting things done. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, do it. ThriveTimeShow.com.
I used to live on pants sag, not giving baby boy, now I'm all grown up. I used to cruise the used car lot, put chrome in the truck. Baby boy, now I'm all grown up. Yeah, we used to ball like that. Now we on the ball team, holla back. Now I got black cards, good credit and such.
Live, local, and now, broadcasting from the center of the universe and the Thrive15.com world headquarters, it's the Thrive Time Show.
Sorry, we're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium.
Clay, put your pants on. Come on. Come on.
Super loop.
Seriously.
All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the conversation. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. And today we're talking about an old school subject, and that is the art of getting things done. Move 58 of 66. You've got to create a checklist for everything. Now, before you fight me on this, I want you to ask yourself right now as an entrepreneur, what are the things you keep forgetting? What are the things your team keeps forgetting? I'll give you an example. I went to 71st and Memorial to a place that's called 5 Minute Oil Change. It used to be Jiffy Lube. Have you been there, Robert?
I've been there.
I go through. Great place, great service. They did a very fine job for me. I was very happy. But I go through, and the guy says, have you been here before? I said, no. He says, okay, great. Well, we're going to go ahead and do a boom, 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 and a bang, 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 and he does the thing. And he comes back and says, hey, your air filter looks like it needs to be replaced. It looks like this and that. And he's just going through a checklist. Hey, your wipers look great today. Do you need us to go ahead and fill up the boom, 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 and the bang, bang, bang? Do you want me to top off the boom, 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 and the bang, bang, bang? Hey, your car has over 150,000 miles on it. Do you want me to use a synthetic, or do you use... And he just goes through the checklist. And I don't know what they put on the sign. I think the sign right now says like $20 or $19 oil change on the road. They're off of Memorial, right there by Sunshine Furniture. There's a little...
I went to the one at 81st and Harvard.
Take 5.
But do you remember what the signs did? Take 5.
Something like $19.99 or something.
It's like $19.99.
Yeah.
And I think when I got done, he said that'll be like $120. And I said, absolutely. But that's how they make their money, is by going through the checklist.
Right.
Another example, Southwest Airlines. When the plane takes off, I want you to understand this. Commercial airlines are safer than cars. Commercial, if you fly, it's safer than driving. Now, people don't realize that. I'm afraid of flying because I'm afraid of height. I get motion sickness. I don't like being in close proximity to people I don't know. People don't wash their hands, and I don't want to touch their hands. And I hate flying. But when I'm on a plane, I know that it is safer than driving because they have a checklist-driven system. You know, the Boeing 737 has a redundant engine system, just so you know. So if one engine goes out, a guy like Captain Sully can still land that beast. That's how it works.
In the Hudson River.
That's right. So what happens is they have a checklist, though. And so when you get in a jet, they don't say, oh my gosh, Robert, I ran out of fuel. I ran out of fuel on the way to Dallas. I ran out of fuel. You know, I had to land that thing like on a mogi. You know what I'm saying? Like in a cornfield. It was crazy. But yet you know people. We all know people who've run out of gas. And you're yeah, I do. And then we all have been the person. What? We've all been the person who ran out of gas, right? Why? Because we're dumb, or no? Because we don't have a checklist. But if you have a checklist, so when I started traveling all the time for business, I literally did this, and I'm so stupid because I didn't have a checklist. I have a huge speaking event for Hewlett-Packard, and I didn't put it on the checklist to always book the first flight in the morning. You always take the red-eye flight. If you're a speaker, you always want to fly in the day before you speak. If you speak on Friday, you fly in on Thursday on the first flight. So my assistant, who was trying to do a good job, booked me on a 5 o'clock flight, 5 p.m. Long story short, all my planes get delayed, so I land in Albuquerque to speak for Hewlett-Packard. I land there at like midnight because the flights are delayed, bad weather, whatever. Boom. So I land there, and I go to get my rental car. And they go, I'm so sorry. Your car, the place that rents the cars is closed. And I'm like, what airport security guy? He goes, it's closed. But it opens up tomorrow at 5. And I'm like, okay, 5 a.m. My speaking event's at 7 at the Hilton that's in the middle of nowhere. It's a Hilton casino. They call it Buffalo Casino or something. So I'm like, so you're saying I have to sleep here? He goes, buy the luggage. And then I'll sleep here with my luggage. And I wake up, and then I have to drive there, and I have to have no delays and get there so I can get there with 10 minutes to spare. And he goes, yes. Like,
Dream scenario. That's
so I sleep. I set my alarm. I wake up. Some young boy is looking at me. He's probably 2 or 3 running around the place. Look at the little boy going, oh, my gosh. I go to the place. I rent my car. I get my car. I drive. I break all the speed limits. I get there. Thankfully, I didn't get pulled over. I'm out there in Albuquerque. I get to the speaking event probably 40 minutes early because I was speeding so fast, excess of 100 miles an hour. I get to the hotel. Then I realize, oh, no, I haven't showered. So I go and I said, I'd like to take a shower. She says, sir, all the rooms are booked out. I said, okay, great. So I go into the locker room, take a hostile takeover of the golf course shower facilities. I take a shower. I get ready to go. I get out to speak. I have no belt.
Rough.
No brown belt. Got brown shoes. Got to wear a brown belt.
Your pants are down.
So I'm going, okay, you know what? I'll just speak without a belt. I'll maybe just button it and so you won't tell, So I do the button move. And then I'm like, my slideshows. Like my slideshow, it's not working. So I plug in the thumb drive. It's not working. It doesn't sync up. Something's not. I go, okay, but it's on Dropbox, right? So I know it's not on Dropbox. Now I'm texting, calling our entire office. They put it up on Dropbox. Crisis averted. No one knew. Freaked me out.
Yeah.
So I made a checklist that said now every speaking event henceforth, I'll fly out the day before early. I'm going to have a backup on my thumb drive. I have a backup laptop. I'm going to have anyway, all those issues I solved with the checklist. I never had another speaking event problem ever again. But before I made the checklist, it was like every event, it was like, what's going to go wrong this time? And what went wrong every time was not having a checklist. And so Atul Gawande, the American surgeon, writer, the guy who basically the head of the Harvard Medical School, is one of the leading professors at the Harvard Medical School, he says the volume and complexity of what we know has exceeded our individual ability to deliver its benefits correctly, safely, or reliably. Without a checklist. He's saying the volume and complexity of what we know is basically too much for our head. So Wes Carter, you're an attorney, and there's so many steps, and there's so many things and processes, and there's so much. How do you do it? And what kind of checklist do you use at Winters and King to make sure you don't screw up when you're doing a big case?
Well, we have several redundant systems that you would classify as checklists. So some of the more important ones are, for instance, a lawsuit has what's called statute of limitations, that you have a certain amount of time after the claim happens, the wreck happens, the injury happens, to file the lawsuit, or you lose it. You lose all of your rights.
So if you don't file within a certain window, you lose.
Right. So that means if a client has $1 million lawsuit and I miss it by 1 day, I've now committed $1 million in malpractice.
No.
So that is one system of checklist that we have to ensure that we do not miss any statute of limitations dates. And then you have the ones that go day to day. I mean, I probably talk to 20, 30, 40 people every single day about complex issues. And so once my mind changes gears, it's hard to remember what happened in the morning.
I want to hear a story about some case that you won that was super easy because the legal team that you were going up against forgot a basic step. And thus, it was like an absolute win. Give me an example of where you went. Okay, yeah. This was easy.
So when you're in a lawsuit, you have something called discovery, where you share information back and forth. One of the things you can do in discovery is you send over requests for admissions. So you say, admit that you're a jerk, admit that you screwed my client over, admit all these things, and they admit or deny all these things, so you can weed out what you have to fight about. Well, the good part is if you fail to respond to those, they're all deemed admitted. So
yes,
it's an opt-in system.
Right. So if the other side just totally spaces and doesn't respond to any of those in the time allotted.
When we come back, I want you to break down this story. I am super excited to hear this, how the checklist can help you as an attorney. Stay tuned to the Drive Time Show on your radio.
Ready to enter the Thrive Time Show on Talk Radio 1170.
Hey yo, I know you never heard this before, but I'd rather lose a fight than miss the war. And I ain't wishing competition or fishing for it. I'm just living in a system, conditions are poor. I've been lost in the rhythm and misinformed.
Thrive Nation, here is the deal. We are here to help you have the most successful life possible. So sometimes on the show, we teach things that... Lee Cockrell is the former executive vice president of Walt Disney World Resorts. And he once told me, he said, if you're going to be honest, you'd better be funny. And so we hope this show makes you laugh and you learn, but also it's like really specific stuff. And I think a lot of people get uncomfortable sometimes when there's something specific. And so Wes is sharing Wes Carter, Tulsa's #1 attorney, is actually sharing a story with us about how you can lose a case. Your attorney can lose you a case just by not using a checklist. Just by forgetting one simple step, they could lose the case for you. And that's why Winters and King is the legal team that we would recommend for you. But I'm also saying if you are listening to this show today and your business does not have a checklist for cleaning the bathroom, for answering the phone, for anything you do, for any of your core competencies, you have got to get a checklist because you are screwing up way too much if you don't have a checklist. If you don't have a checklist, and you're a contractor, you're screwing up. If you don't have a script, you're messing up. If you don't have a checklist for your payroll, you are screwing up. I'm going to tell you, if my wife didn't check Every single week, every single dollar that we look at from the accounting perspective, just 4 weeks ago, I guess 5 weeks ago, somebody turned in, and I'm not exaggerating, over 250 miles that they drove this week and during their work week.
In Tulsa.
The problem is that they only went 25. And Vanessa goes, I don't think you might have made a mistake. And they're like, oh, I added a zero, my fault. But I'm not exaggerating. On our total weekly payroll with Thrive, we have probably, I don't know, in our organization, we're doing this year's holiday party, and we're having it at the Mayo with all the employees that Dr. Z and I have. Between Elephant in the Room and Thrive, there's, I don't know, 150 people, 130 people. She probably catches 25% of payroll fraud a week. Like 25% of what we would pay is fraud every week. And so she goes through it every week. And when you talk about hours, people make them up. They turn in things multiple times. And if my wife was not absolutely like the wall to catch that stuff, we would have a real bad problem. And if you're listening today to the show, I want you to look at this statistic up. But according to the U.S. Chamber, 75%, look this up. According to the U.S. Chamber and CBS News, 75% of employees are stealing. So that means if you don't have a checklist in place to watch your company videos on a consistent basis and to spot check them, you're losing a lot of money due to theft. Now, before we went to the break, Wes was telling us this story about how an attorney almost lost a deal, or maybe did lose a deal as a result of just not doing a checklist. Wes, reset the story. Tell us this example of how someone can lose a court case, lose a litigation, lose a lawsuit as a result of simply not using a checklist if they are an attorney.
So we're talking about discovery. And part of discovery is request for admissions. It allows you to narrow down what you're going to fight about. And so you send over these admissions, admit, you did this, you caused me this much damage, all the things that you're going to fight about in the lawsuit. If they fail to respond to those, they miss that deadline to respond, all of those are deemed admitted in your favor.
Do you have to send it via mail, or is it via email, or how does it work?
You can send it mail. In some cases, you can consent
Instant
to email.
messaging.
And so if you miss that, the judge has the discretion to let you off the hook, but you have to go in front of a judge. And if you've already missed a deadline, or I gave you an extension before you missed the second one, you may just lose the case right then and there just for missing a deadline.
Regardless of how right you may be.
Correct. Irregardless of the facts, just the fact that you missed the deadline, you could lose the entire case right then and there.
Okay.
We had the same kind of thing in the construction industry. If you had a pre-lien date, if you had to file a lien because somebody hasn't paid you on your invoice, if you don't send them a pre-lien date notice by 75 days, you lose your right to file a lien at 90 days.
Even if they owe you money?
Even if they've owed you money for 75 days,
yes.
If you need to file a lien on that 90th day, if you don't send that pre-lien, too bad. So sad.
True story. Had a Thriver I talked to this week, and they're going to head into bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. I told them this is time to do it. It's time to wrap it up because you did not do exactly what Eric Chupp asked you to do. You knew people owed you money, but you didn't call them on it. You didn't file that pre-lien. You didn't do it. And I said, a lot of these are aged, man, like 6 months, and so you're not going to get it. So you really do need to just declare bankruptcy and go work for somebody. I mean, I had that conversation just
That's
this week.
tough, too. I mean, it's heart-wrenching.
It is, and it's not a good thing. So if you're listening to the show today, I mean, think about this. Southwest Airlines uses checklists for maintaining and flying planes. Manhattan Construction uses checklists for buildings. Starbucks uses a checklist for cleaning their bathrooms. Whole Foods uses checklists for their daily operations. And basically anything that is consistently high quality uses a checklist. Thus, if you want to have a consistently high quality system, vacation, office, or life, use a checklist. I ask you, in what areas of your life would a checklist save you massive amounts of time and potential forgetfulness? Robert, you're a business coach. You deal with clients all the time. You work with them. You help them. You coach them. You help clients improve dramatically. Talk to me about a situation where you say, man, if a client would just start using a checklist, that would help them tremendously. And I also want you to brag a little bit because you have a client that went from $400,000 this year of revenue to $3 million.
Oh, yeah.
And talk to me about the difference in the discipline of that client versus maybe the average person?
So the discipline of that client, the guy's a Marine, so he has a little bit of discipline.
Who is this man?
It's Americom Technologies, Jonathan Shepard.
Repeat that one more time. I want all the Thrivers to Google it to verify you're not making up stuff.
Americom, not American, Americom, C-O-M, Technologies, AmericomTG.com. That's AmericomTG.com.
Shout out Shep. What's up, dude?
Yeah, Shep has been able to grow his electrical and telecommunications contracting business to $3 million. And Clay, they are going to grow even more. They're starting to get into like home security and a couple other lines of business.
Oh, come on now.
And he is just dominating.
Producing gold.
But one of the biggest areas, Clay, lately I've seen with a number of different clients I've worked with, and luckily a lot of the clients we're able to work with are really coachable.
Oh, yeah, and they pick this up real fast.
Yeah, and so it's not an issue of not wanting to do it. They just need to know the proven system. One of the biggest areas that I think clients that I've worked with have improved in the most in regards to checklists is lead tracking.
Lead tracking?
Is just keeping track of your leads. I mean, I'm working with different contractors. I'm working with screen printers.
Time out real quick. A lead is when somebody reaches out to your company and says, hey, I'm interested in moving forward.
They're not a customer yet, but they said they express interest in your product or services.
Preach the good news, Robert.
And so with a lot of these clients, we've done something real simple. I mean, these clients, they have CRMs
No. What you're doing is
Kerms?
Why are you using the jargon?
Crams?
Why are you using the jargon? And you know that a lot of our listeners, we have no idea. You said
Software.
you said CRM.
I'm sorry.
And I'm
sorry.
Does he play for
Cut
the
me
Patriots?
some slack. I'm sorry.
I swear. Just quit using the jargon.
I know, Elon Musk.
What does
hell,
CRM
I'm
mean?
sorry.
Answer the question.
It's customer relationship management.
Freaking A.
Customer relationship management software. And they say, yeah, all my leads are in the CRM and in the software. And say, okay, well, let's go see them. We log into the CRM.
I don't know
and
the
they're
passwords.
Like, oh, my gosh.
I don't know the passwords.
I don't know the passwords or, I didn't realize those leads weren't there.
What are the passwords? I swear.
How'd you fix it?
Lou.
By just putting your leads on an Excel document and color coding them by which stage they're at in the process.
When we come back, I swear, Robert's going to break down tracking your leads. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Big shout out to Tom Brady and other deities. I mean, if you are a deity, you are somebody who could be a potential false god. Big shout out to you and Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady, you're not God, but you are very on the...
Big shout out to the false gods.
Yeah, you're not like a real god, but you're like right on the verge of being like a huge deal. Whoop. Hello, and welcome back to another glorious, illustrious, and sanctimoniously humble segment of the Thrive Time Business Coach radio show. The show where you go to learn how to build a successful business from two men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses between the two of them. And that's not all. Oh no, Clay's actually been featured in such feature films as... and he finished 4th place in a hand modeling audition in the 80s. It's the Thrive Time Show on the radio. You know, my hand modeling career, it started off like with I went to, if you've ever been to a John Casablancas?
I know what you're talking about.
Have you seen that? Do you know what John Casablancas is? Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, in the middle of the mall where they're trying to rope in teenagers.
Here's what happens is they take a girl, she's probably blonde, she's, kind of slender.
Pay me $2,000.
And they'll say, you have a real potential to be a top model. Top model. I mean, you have it's always a man who will just say he's fabulous. Oh my gosh.
Fabulous.
You have such a potential to be what I would call a top model. You just the way that you connect your gait, the way that you hold.
There's an aura.
Your posture is phenomenal, and we just want you to know that your child has potential to be
symmetrical.
A top model. Have you seen this though? Have you seen this?
I haven't.
No, have you seen
they
Wes?
haven't come up to me.
Wes, have you seen this?
Yes, I've never been the recipient of any of those statements, but I have seen this happen many times.
And they'll say, now here's the deal. Now for like $2,000, we'll take your headshots and we will find and we'll enter you into the database where all of the modeling agencies go to search for talent. And I was never asked to do that. Even by the hucksters, Wes. Even by the people who had.
I've had several of these people call me afterwards wanting to go back and sue them because their modeling portfolio they paid $8,000 for turns out to be glamour shots at the local studio.
Do they have the big bangs?
Moto photo.
Got it.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember glamour shots? So everyone's mom had those, and your mom's like 44.
I don't know what's up with that.
That reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite.
And they all they all have the bangs, and they're you're going, Mom, why are you getting that photo? It's kind of like oddly seductive, and it's your mom, and you kind of as a young man, like when you're 14 or 15, you want your mother to have been an asexual being.
Move number 59.
I always want my mother. I always dreamed that my mother was like an amoeba. Who just all of a sudden she was able to just reproduce. You know
I always dreamed my mother was an amoeba.
Yeah, I didn't want I wanted my mother to be an asexual being. I wanted it to be a thing where all of a sudden I would just know that do you get what I'm saying?
We get what you're saying. Yes.
And the point is, we're moving on to move 59. Okay, so don't attempt to operate by memory. This is huge. Don't attempt to operate by memory. I want to start with you, Eric Chupp, because you work with so many clients. I'm sure there's a client that you've never worked with. I'm sure your clients, you've never had this problem. But there's somebody out there that refuses to use a script or refuses to use a checklist or refuses to use anything documented because it's all in their head. It's so hard to teach people. So let me read you the notable quotable.
Okay.
And then please unleash the knowledge we don't get in business college.
Okay.
This is from Atul Gawande. This is the guy who's the big boss who wrote the Checklist Manifesto. He is a leading physician over there at the Harvard Medical School. He says, we don't like checklists. They can be painstaking. They're not much fun. But I don't think the issue here is mere laziness. There's something deeper, more visceral going on when people walk away not only from saving lives at a hospital, but from making money. It feels somehow beneath us to use a checklist, an embarrassment. It runs counter to the deeply held beliefs about how the truly great among us, those we aspire to be, handle situations of high stakes and complexity. The truly great are daring. They improvise. They don't have protocols and checklists. Maybe our idea of heroicism needs updating. Whoa!
Hello.
Drop the mic. Too good one day. Okay, so break it down there, Eric Chupp. What is he talking about?
Okay, so basically, I got just a quote I want to bring up that John Kelly told me. I don't know who this was.
You got just a quote. You want to bring up just a quote?
The mind is for thinking and the pen is for remembering.
The mind is for... What were you saying, Eric Chupp?
So the mind is for thinking. Use your mind for problem solving. Use the pen for remembering. Use your checklist for remembering those things.
Can you say it 3 more times? Because I want someone to write this down, because somebody out there is trying to get a piece of paper. They're going,
here we go.
Frick, where's a piece of paper? I've been writing all my notes with an Etch-a-Sketch, but now I got to write it on a piece of paper. What was that?
Your mind is for thinking, and the pen is for remembering.
One more time.
The pen is for remembering, and the mind is for thinking.
One more time.
The mind is for thinking, and the pen is for remembering.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not just doing this because I want to do this. Somebody needs to write this down. One more time.
The mind is for thinking, and the pen is for remembering.
Okay, break it down. What does that mean?
Okay, so there's too much stuff going on like we've been talking about, so you have to use a checklist. And typically, when I'm working with clients, I see that it's a lack of them knowing how to train people. Or they end up writing a manual. They don't write a checklist, they write a manual, and it becomes really cumbersome, so the employees refuse to use it. So you've got to pare that thing down to an actual checklist that is operational, and then just the pen is for remembering.
Oh, yeah.
The mind is for thinking.
Your mind is for critical thinking, making decisions, and connecting with people emotionally.
Yes.
Your mind is not for remembering, which is why pens, paper, and computers with memory exist. And I realize, guys, that the education system right now praises memorization as the path to success. Look, you can memorize things and you can get a B. Look, you can memorize things and get an A. It's unfreaking believable. Most of the people I know, though, that can remember lots of facts and tests during college can't tell you the vast majority of what they learned. So you got to quit attempting to try to memorize all this crap, because no one cares. You have to be able to find the stuff when you need it. You have to be able to solve problems. That's what it's all about, is the ability to find the solutions and get things done, not the ability to memorize things. Robert, break it down.
And so something that I love about the quote by Atul Gawande that you just read is, some people, you may be listening and say, well, in my industry, well, I'm just too good. I'm just too good for a checklist.
I'm too good for it.
I'm just too good for a checklist. I'll tell you. Well, Atul Gawande is talking to Harvard.
His name is Atul. How awesome
he sounds
could he be?
like a tool.
Sounds like a tool.
Yeah, Atul Gawande.
Hey, real quick, I'm being serious though. Do you have a spitter? Do you have a spitter?
A spitter?
A spitter. I've been having school.
Oh, yeah, I got one right here in the corner.
I like school.
But the guy is talking to Harvard-trained surgeons. He's telling Harvard-trained surgeons, some of the brightest minds, or people, who tell these folks that they have the brightest minds in the world.
But my industry is different.
Checklists.
But my industry is different, Robert. I make beef jerky.
Well,
That is a fine art, Clay.
That is a unique industry, and there is some just good old-fashioned, on the fly art that goes on in that
Robert, I'm
industry.
just kidding. I'm actually a taxidermist.
Please don't impugn those beef jerkers
It
out there,
doesn't
okay?
matter what industry it is. Atul Gawande, the message here is saying, regardless of it, you can't rely on your memory. When the stakes are high, you got to fall back on the checklist. And one of the biggest things that I've learned since I've joined you, Clay, and the entire team here at Thrive.
I don't know who Clay is, but I'm a taxidermist.
Oh, gosh. We had a little bit of a mind transplant there in this segment. And,
Don't know where he is.
It's just using a daily to-do list. And I've become so dependent upon anytime anyone says anything, and anytime I say I'll do something for someone else, I add it to this to-do list so I don't leave it to just my memory.
But Robert, my industry is different. I deal with pets, exotic pets. Robert, seriously, I have a petting zoo.
My
industry is different. Robert, I fly helicopters. My industry is different. I don't need a checklist.
my toucan just ain't my checklist.
I'm being serious, though. So many people fight that idea. They just fight it. I don't know what it is. Wes, help somebody. Why are people
what
fighting
happens in my industry, I think a lot of industries, no matter what kind of work you're in, even if you rely on your memory, let's say you wake up in the morning, you're in the shower, you're like, okay, I got this, and this to do. I'm going to get it all done today. You show up to work, and there's a fire. There's an emergency, and
not a literal fire.
Right, no. You're triaging an emergency from a client or from one of your employees, and so you get distracted, and that consumes the first part of your day, or it happens in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden, it's 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock, you had to do something before close of business, and because nothing popped up and reminded you, because you weren't checking a checklist, you weren't looking at anything to help remind you other than your memory, that emergency has distracted you past the due date, and now you've screwed yourself.
Now, here is something I want you to think about there, Thrive Nation, real quick. What is something that you've invested an insane amount of time memorizing that you can no longer remember? I'll give you an example of something that I spent in college. I was required. No, this is big stuff.
No, I just laughed reflecting on my own life and how I memorized Koine Greek, ancient Greek, that's no longer being used anymore, and how much time I spent memorizing that.
So, and I'm not trying to rip ORU, but if you are at ORU and you are offended by this, then you should really just repent.
Pray about it.
But here's the thing is, when I went to ORU, you had to memorize vast portions of the Old Testament. And then you had to recite them back on a paper. Now, here's what happens is, I can't, I mean this, the other day, someone was asking me, what's your daughter's middle name? I don't know my kid's middle name. I don't know their birthdays because I can't remember things.
There's too many.
Well, there's 5, but
You remember your son's middle name?
Yeah, it's Aubrey Napoleon Hill, but I really struggle with, I'm being serious. Someone asked me, what's their middle name? I don't know. I don't know their birthdays, and I just don't know. So, all I know is that I do show up on their birthdays when I have them. But the point is that people, they pride themselves on memorization. Well, I worked so hard to memorize huge portions of the Old Testament. I turn in my paper, I show up for the test, and I get like a B every time, and then everything that I try to recall as an adult that I learned, I can't remember a single thing at all for my entire process of memorizing the Old Testament at Oral Roberts University. Why am I saying that? I don't know. I forgot. Stay tuned to the Thrive Time Show.